Hi, this is Joanne Hewins with LoveToCreate.typepad.com. I'm so glad to have you here today, and we're going to be using the Floral Essence stamp set to help us to make this card today. So let's get started. We're going to begin with a piece of crumb cake that is 4 1/4 by 8 1/2. I've scored this at 5 1/2, and I'm going to use my bone folder. I'm going to make sure my corners are straight here and just burnish that so that it's a good flat surface. And we're going to begin with this large outline flower that's on the stamp set, and we're going to stamp that in crumb cake, the same color as the base of our card. So I'm going to get out my crumb cake, and to do this we're going to be stamping randomly over the surface, and I am going to stamp off on my paper because I don't want it full strength back there. So I'm going to stamp once there and then on the paper, and I'm going to do that all over. And I don't want it in a row, I want it kind of random. And notice here I'm stamping just to fill in that space. Most of it went off, but that's okay. That gives it more of a natural kind of feel to it. So we'll continue to stamp off and fill in some of those spaces. This is one of the new stamps that's available in the new annual catalog that started on June the 4th. It's a wonderful catalog. And there we go. I'm noticing right in here I didn't get quite as good a coverage. I'm hoping that that will be okay. All right. Now, the paper that I'm using on this card, let me move this one back in, is from this 2019-2021 In Color Designer Series paper. It's in 6x6. It does have all 5 of the new In Colors with it. And it has 2 designs for each color as well, and it has this kind of design with the script on the back, and then it has this kind of a diagonal design, and on the back of that is a check. So really neat. This kind of paper is going to be in all of our color families in this catalog, so I'm excited about that. Let me set that out of the way, and we're using today the new Seaside spray, and I'm using the script side. This was my 6x6 paper. Let me turn this one around to match, and I just cut it at 2 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to my paper, and I didn't go all the way down to the bottom because this is 6 inches long and it won't need to be that long. So what I'm going to do is put my paper straight on one of the lines on my grid. I think I'll move it over so it's right in a corner. And I'm going to adhere this at 1 inch. So I went over 4 of the squares to 1 inch, and then I'm going to go down here to the bottom and line that line up with this one. And that way I know that it's straight on my paper. And then I'm just going to turn this to the back and just clip this so that it's even with the cardstock. And that way I know that it fits perfectly on there. Now for my flowers, I'm also going to need some leaves, and I'm using the leaf punch. This is already in the catalog, but it goes well with this stamp set. In fact, the stamp set has a stamp that goes with that punch. So I love the way Stampin' Up! Coordinates things They are fantastic. So I'm going to take the pretty peacock color of the script, and I'm going to go ahead and punch out my 5 leaves. Okay, and I did try to pay attention to the way the writing goes, but I really didn't pay so much of an attention as to whether it was straight or not. So I don't care if it's a little bit crooked on there, and I need 5 of these. Now, if I wasn't a little bit worried about the script, what I would have done is cut a piece or a slice of this paper so that I could do it this way and then turn it around and do it this way, and I could do that back and forth and save paper. So if you're doing something and you're not worried about an orientation of something, that would be the way to save paper on that. Okay, so I've got my leaves ready, and now I want to work with getting the flowers ready. So this stamp set has a small solid flower and a large solid flower, and for my card I need 2 of the large ones and 3 of the small. So I'm just going to bring in some Whisper white paper, and we'll stamp these. Now, originally I used the Stamparatus to help me with this, and I've decided that I'm okay, and I can see that this paper is old and it's got some yuckies on it, but we'll just go around that. And I'm going to use the new Seaside spray to stamp my flowers. Now, they're the same color as this paper, but I think that works nicely on the crumb cake. So let's do some stamping with that. And I told you that I would need 2 of the large and 3 of the small. There's my 2 large, and then we need 3 small. Now, this stamp set does not have a set of dies that goes with it, so we will be fussy cutting those. I'm a person who loves to fussy cut. Now, we do want to put centers in our flowers, and for that we're going to be using Daffodil Delight, but I wanted to show you that there are 3 centers for you to choose from in here, and you really just have to look at what the center of your flower looks like to know which one to choose. This one that's a full circle goes with the large outline. See how it's a full circle there? And then this one that seems to have a little curve in it goes with this one here. See the little curve that comes out? And then this one almost looks like it has a V, and that's going to fit right in there. So just look at your centers to know which one to use. And because these are photopolymer, it's pretty easy to match those unless you're on camera and you can't get your head in there. So I'm going to try my best to match those up. Not too bad. And then we'll do these 3. Okay. And then, as I said, we're going to fussy cut these. And I'm going to do one of these with you, but I really already have, in the interest of time, some of these cut out. But I did want to talk to you again, I think I've mentioned this on other videos, about fussy cutting and how you want to move the paper more than you move your scissors. So my scissors are staying kind of in the same place, and I'm turning the paper. And if you'll notice, I am putting an edge around this because the flowers are the same color as that background paper. I want them to show up. So I'm leaving a bit of an edge on that. And you can see now why I went ahead and cut them out in advance. But you may have to practice a little bit, but if you move the paper instead of the scissors, you're going to find out you really end up with more control over that. So I'm going to bring back in my base, and I'm going to bring in this. And let me ask you this. Have you ever put something together and then when you went back to do it again, it wasn't quite as easy to work it out? That's what I'm afraid is going to happen today when I try to put these pieces together. But we'll try, we'll see how it goes, and hopefully it will go together. So what I started with was one of my large ones, and I used glue dots to help me to hold all of this into place. So what I did was I got a glue dot and kind of decided I'd like to have this right in there. So I put a glue dot back in there, and I wanted a leaf back in there. So I just kind of put those together like that. And then I worked on another one of these, and I decided I kind of wanted that to go over that. So I'm going to put a glue dot. There's probably a way to do this that's not quite as cumbersome, but I'm going to put a glue dot over in here and then just kind of put that together. And I did that kind of in a circle, and that's when I decided, oh, could make a wreath out of this. And that's what gave me the idea. I'm going to go ahead and put one of my leaves. I wondered what happened to that glue dot. Back in here. And then I'm going to pick up one of the big flowers and add it. I wonder if I can pick that up. Nope. So I'm going to take one of the big flowers and kind of add it over in here, kind of trying to keep the circle kind of look on that. And then we want to close it up with another flower. So I'm going to take my glue dots and put one on each side of that flower, and we'll see if we can kind of get this together. And I have kind of a wreath shape, but I have a little bit of an opening. And my first thoughts were that I would be able to stamp something in this circle, but then I realized it really isn't big enough to do much of anything with that. So I'm going to add, I'm sorry, but I'm going to end up gluing my paper to the grid paper if I don't work on that. So I'm going to add my other leaves, but I want to make sure they're going to fit on the card. So I'm going to take this one and put it right in there, I think. And I think it might be easier just to stick that directly. I'll put one over in here, and then one down at the bottom. So that worked out okay, I guess. Okay, and then what I need to do is put on some snail and glue all of that down. Okay. All right. Now, for the saying, I used part of the stamp set that came with Shelli's Hugs from Shelli Paper Pumpkin for May. This is the stamp set, and I've got a lot of it already on blocks. But I used the hello from right here. And then on the inside of the card, I'm going to be using the grateful and for you. So I'll go ahead and show that to you. If you haven't seen this paper pumpkin, it is fantastic. It comes in the beautiful box with the pink flowers, and it has the 4 different designs. You make 3 each of each card. I can show you those real quick. They are beautiful. And I was going to make some alternatives, but why? These are just gorgeous the way they are. So I'm just going to make them all the way they're supposed to be. But anyway, I'll be using those stamps from that set. So I'm going to just stamp the hello. I'm going to stamp that in the pretty peacock. And I can just use some of this scrap paper that I have from down here. And then, because the opening is small, I wanted something small to cut that open with. And I'm going to be using the stitched nested labels. And I'll be using this one. It will fit that hello almost perfectly. So you'll just take that to your die cutting machine and cut that out. But I have already done one, so we'll be using this one. Okay, these you will love. All right, so I'm just going to add some dimensionals and put that right in there. And I've got some of the mini dimensionals today because we're going to be putting some on our leaves. So I'll just put a couple there. And this will go right in here on the card. All right. Now, for the leaves, I used dimensionals and I used glue dots to help me to adhere those, because I knew if they were going in and out of an envelope and they're not adhered, they're probably going to tear. So for some of these, I just put a glue dot underneath like that, and then for some I would take a dimensional and just put that underneath one. And so I did that all the way around. So I'll put a glue dot under this one. And maybe I'll put dimensionals under both of those others. And I might not go around and do all of those right now, but that's what I did to just adhere those and make sure that they would stay in place. All right, now I have left the bow. And usually I have my bows all made and ready to go. But today I'm just going to bring in a bow maker. I got this one a long time ago online. I'm sure if you look them up, you can find somebody that has bow makers for sale, but I'm just not very good at bows. But for this one, it looks like I went around there about 6 times. So you can make 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and I'm going to cut this rather long. I'm using the linen thread, and what you do is come out here, put one on top of the other, and pull it around and back again. This is actually the back of the bow that you've got here. And what I did on this one is I took that back piece and I went around several times to make that a little bit thicker in there. And then you just tie it in the back. And you may not be able to see that very good, and I'm going to tie it again. Usually I don't need to do that, but because I did that around a couple of times. So it makes it look like it's got a little bit thicker circle in there. But you may have to play with it a little bit to get these ends to come out the way you want them to. So I'm going to get a glue dot and just kind of pull on it and roll it up. And on the back of this, I'm actually, you can see that the knot is over on the side, and I'm actually going to put this glue dot on there. Hopefully that'll work, so that it looks like one a little more even on that. Okay, and then we'll just put that here on the card. And I ended up making the one longer that I really didn't need. And did you know that you could take your bone folder and just kind of pull on those on the edge, and just like ribbon, you can get that to curl a little bit. So there's the front of the card. Let's talk about the inside for a minute. I like to do the insides of the card, so I'm going to pull over a piece of Whisper White. This is 4 by 5 1/4. And first of all, I'm going to stamp my Grateful for You from the Shelli Hugs from Shelli kit, Paper Pumpkin kit. Sorry, I'm going to have to stand up. That did do okay, thanks. And then I'm going to stamp my larger flower that is solid. Again, I'm going to be using the Seaside spray for that. And then we're going to put a daffodil center in, and that's going to be the one that has a little bit of a curve on it. Okay, and then we want to do this leaf, and we want to bring in the leaf from that Floral Essence stamp set. It does go with the punch, as I said, but we're not going to be using those together. We want a leaf that's going to go back here behind our flower, but we don't want that long stem. So there are actually a couple of ways that we could do that, and one is by making a mask. So let's talk about that for a moment. And to make the mask, we're going to use a sticky notepad. We're going to stamp the flower up here near the top where the sticky is. You want to make sure that you get sticky. And then you're going to just pull that sheet off and cut around the flower. Now I've already done that when I did my sample, and I like to take that cut out because it has a little sticky. I like to take it and keep it in my case, and that way I don't have to make a mask every single time. So I'm going to take this and fit it right on top. And this one I didn't leave an outline when I cut it out. I cut it out exactly. And so now I can take the stamp and ink it up and then stamp it off to the side, and the leaves look like they're coming from behind the flower. Now the other thing that sometimes I do is with a scrap of paper, let me pick up this paper here, with a scrap of paper I might just kind of hold the scrap there, and then you can ink it and just do it so that part of that goes onto the paper. And I don't really want to stamp there, so I'm not going to. But there is the inside of the card. We will adhere that to the inside of my card. I usually hold two corners, and just kind of, that way I can kind of move it around and get it pretty straight. And there we have it. This is a card using the Floral Essence stamp set, and we used the in color paper. That's just the wrapper, but we use that in color paper, and I think it's quite pretty. If you need supplies, you can buy those from me at lovetocreate.typepad.com. There's a link to my online store there. I would love to be your demonstrator. I would love to sell my wonderful products to you. Just let me know if there's something I can do to help you. Thank you, and bye-bye.